Welcome to the Knowledge for Men show. Your life will never be the same.
Your level of success will seldom exceed your level of personal development.
I want to die empty of regret. I want to die empty of my best work. We don't understand who we are. Instead, we're living out somebody else's narrative.
What one man can do, another man can do. If it's been done, it can be done again.
Being yourself and being your truest, most authentic self in every moment. If it scares you or makes you a little afraid, do it. Follow your heart and your gut.
The first stage, I think, is finding you, like finding out who I am today.
Stuff will not work. You will have things that fail. Success is when you're a happy, fulfilled person. How do you define success?
It's your life, and you are the creator of the movie script that is your life story.
How would you like to become unstoppable, irresistible, and unafraid in every area of your life? Get free instant access to my Double Your Confidence program. Get free instant access to my Double Your Confidence program to become a person of action, overcome any obstacle, and scale any height. Go to kfmconfidence.com to get instant access to my program. Again, that's kfmconfidence.com. All right, guys, welcome to the show. I'm here with Richard Ruina. He's a London-based entrepreneur and founder of pwaytraining.com, author of the best-selling book, The Natural, and dating coach. Richard, happy to have you here on the show this is the second time.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm excited to be back.
All right. Thank you, Richard. And so let's dive in with a saying, something that you've lived by that's helped you on your journey. Share with us what you got and what that means to you.
I think I was always inspired, like once I'd seen someone else do something, it gave me belief that I could do it, as long as they weren't, a genius or have some special physical ability. So then, already living by that, I stumbled across the quote from Marcus Aurelius where he said, "Do not think that what is hard for you to master is humanly impossible. And if it is humanly possible, consider it to be within your reach." So, once you see the model for something, and the person doing it just seems like someone who maybe had a similar background or just wasn't, super exceptional, didn't have some super advantage, then know that you can do it with just, the hard work and the right attitude and everything else.
Yeah, I like that. In the beginning, like the intro to this podcast, I have a quote and it says, it's someone else saying it, but it says, what one man can do, another man can do. And to me, that's just been a motto that ever since I heard that, I'm like, that's just so true. Like you look at someone else and let's say I'm looking at some successful guy, he's doing well in business, or I'm at a party and he has a really nice house and he's got a nice place. I look at him and I'm like, I can have this too. Like I'll talk to him and he's just a normal guy. It's not like he's on this crazy level. Like he's a normal guy. Like I can do that too. He's got maybe a gorgeous wife. He's got a nice house. Maybe he's got a nice car. It's like, yeah, if he can do this, I can definitely do this.
Exactly. And there's always a model, right? So there's, obviously something like weight loss or making money or changing your life, there's always a model for it. And even if if you want to be a UFC champion and you've never done any fight training and you're 50 years old, it's unrealistic. But for most of the goals that guys and, ladies, everyone would have in any area of their life, there's usually a model of someone that has transformed themselves and got to the place where you'd ideally like to be.
Yeah, I think that alone is like such an epiphany, because once you realize you can look at anything you want to do, and it's like the Matrix, although it doesn't happen in seconds, but you can go and download the best way to learn dating. You can look at your website, you can look at your book, my book, you can look at other people's books, how to make money. It's all, the information is available. But you would think everyone would just be these like monsters, like just absolutely crushing it in their lives, everyone. But now this question arises, with all the information available, all the answers available, and most of it free, why do you think some men just still aren't taking that information and accepting this journey and improving their life with dating, starting their own businesses?
I guess there are a lot of reasons, but one of the major ones for me is that you have to feel enough pain and dissatisfaction to do something. So being dissatisfied, mildly dissatisfied, whatever, it's not really enough. You're in your house and you want something different, but to really make the moves and do something, you really need to feel some pain. So, you could be living with your parents and, you should get a job and move out, but your mum's cooking's really good and they don't mind giving you some money now and again. So although it's not ideal, it's still quite comfortable. So I think a lot of people are just, even though they'd say they don't like their situation, it's still not painful enough for them to really take big action.
Yeah. We were just speaking earlier. You're kind of catching up, like, hey, how you doing? And I was like, man, when I interviewed you last time, I was like on my brother's couch and I was struggling, and that was kind of, that was a lot of pain. And I basically burned all my boats. Like I had I had a good job. It wasn't just this. I had a nice job right out of college. I was making a good salary with great benefits, and I quit, and I found myself in a position where I was in a lot of pain, and I had no other option but to move forward and consume the content, go down and take the journey that led me to where I am now and continuing to grow. But I'm curious about, on your end, what was your painful moment that led you to go and start this company and write these books? I mean, you're so active on with all of your content. You've been doing this for, quite some time now. Like, what was your pain?
10 years.
Yeah. So what was your painful moment that led you to go down this path?
Well, I think I was in social pain all of my teenage years coming into my 20s, and I always had enough pain. I just didn't believe that there was a solution to it, because at that time there wasn't really. I think most people were aware of the amount of material for guys, for example, in dating advice, and there's also quite a lot for people to become, better socially and whatever it is. So I think I wasn't reading many books at the time, and I didn't think it was possible to make fundamental changes to your character and behavior, or go from being someone who's disliked and not, and unpopular, to being someone that can be sociable and extrovert and whatever else. So I had the pain all my life, and I just didn't know it was possible. And the kind of light switch moment was when I saw the examples of some guys that had transformed themselves, going from kind of the nerdy loser to being good with women, because the kind of core of my social pain was that lack of ability at all to, communicate with women.
Yeah. And since then, you've written The Natural. It's still a top-ranked book in the dating space on Amazon. And even just looking at your website, still going strong and creating a lot of different programs and launching different services. What is it? I'm wondering, you said you've been doing this 10 years. I'm curious what's the day-to-day life of Richard? Like, where are you right now? I know you're London-based, but I know you travel.
Yeah, I'm actually less London-based, so it's my official address, but I'm in Russia right now, and I have an apartment in Barcelona, so I like to go to Barcelona sometimes. And I don't know, I don't travel a huge amount, as much as I used to, but every 6 weeks I might like to, change scenery and go somewhere. But my life has changed a lot. In the early days of the business, you'd know this yourself, I was working 10, 12-hour days, 7 days a week, but it was quite pleasurable. I really enjoyed working with guys and kind of the mental process of identifying what they're doing right and wrong, and what tweaks they would need to make, and then watching the results as they do that. So it was really interesting to me psychologically. And then on the business side, it's like, okay, you've never written marketing content, or you've never ran an advert somewhere. Okay, let's figure this out. You've never designed a website, whatever it is. So figuring everything out myself and finding talented people, and it was fascinating for a few years. But then I decided that I didn't want to be a workaholic or burn out. So I started delegating and handing off big areas of the day-to-day work. And although, one important lesson for me was that these people will rarely do as good a job as you would yourself, because it's not their company.
Right.
And they just, they don't care, or they don't know, or whatever. They're not going to do as good a job, but still that frees up your time for something more valuable. So I was always looking at my kind of schedule, and I'm like, I'm spending all this time answering advice emails to guys who write in, and maybe they're even in India and they're 12 years old and they're not going to spend any money. So, let me find a trainer who would write the advice emails. They won't write as good advice as me, but it'll be pretty good, and that's it. And then let me find someone to take various sections of the live event training. Let me find someone, and just handed off stuff. And then I realized I really liked being free and having other people accountable. The website's down, big panic. We got hacked, big panic. Okay, now I don't even get called when stuff like that happens, because I don't need to know. There's someone that I wouldn't be able to fix it anyway. I don't even have the login, right? So someone else is dealing with all of the stuff that I don't like. No one's got my phone number that I don't want to speak to. So, I've just managed to remove all the aspects of having a business that brought me stress or, anything but pleasure. And then I just do fun and interesting stuff like this interview. I'm not doing it to push a product or get new clients or whatever. It would have been the same even if you were just starting out, right? We talked when you were just starting out. So
yeah, thank you.
I'm happy to kind of be surprised by some questions, to stay sharp, maybe have some new thoughts in my mind. And so stuff like this is fun. Sometimes making videos is fun, sometimes writing is fun, and it's only not fun when you have to be in this place on that day at that time, and you just look at your schedule and it's like, damn, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that, and it's all kind of stacked up ahead of you. So that's kind of how I changed my life over the past 6 years, is just deleting almost everything.
It sounds really good. Do you ever just wake up and you're like like you delegated everything and you're just like, what am I gonna do today?
Well, I like being free to choose, and I like I'll wake up when I want, not too early, and someone will cook breakfast for me, run the bath, and I'll enjoy that. And then I might go to the gym, which is nice. I might do some dancing class, cooking class, climbing. I want to try curling, that sport where you roll the puck thing down the ice and people sleep in front of it.
Yeah.
So I arranged to try that next week. I just, I'll say find some cool things to do, and, arrange some things with my friends. And I still read, I make sure I'm always doing something that exercises my brain, something that exercises my body, and then, just some pleasurable or meditative things, whatever, just so I've got the nice balance going on.
Yeah. It seems like people are listening, they're like, wow, that sounds like an awesome life. Like, you got this company, it's running on its own. But keep in mind, you said you've been doing this 10 years and it took about 6 years to, of delegating and all this to get to where you're at right now. Like it was a long.
We actually didn't make a profit for 6 years, so it was business wise and money wise, it was awful for 6 years. Always stressing, about being able to pay the bills, the fixed costs that come due every month. And you need a few thousand for this and a few thousand for that, and you just see the money disappearing, and then it goes negative, So there was a lot of stress for a long time, even more than when you've got kind of personal financial problems, because you've also got employees and people with their own families and stuff that are relying on the company. So it's very, very stressful. And since 2012, it started making money, and my focus immediately switched. I realized that working an extra 20 hours a week might make this amount more money, but what does that really mean? If I had, $1 million cash extra today, I would, I don't know, buy a villa in Mauritius or something, but how much happiness would that actually add to my life? Not enough to justify the extra work. So I'm kind of
Yeah.
focusing on myself, on my relationships, and on my well-being and happiness, and becoming a more all-round person with many different interests and things to talk about, who's curious about many things and doesn't just think about business and seduction,
Yeah.
every waking minute like it used to be.
Right. I'm reading a book right now. It's by John Carlton. It's called the Entrepreneur's Guide to Getting Your Shit Together. And
Cool.
yeah, it's a good book. And he just got these heavy insights. It's like kind of just random insights, but they're all really, really powerful. But he has one insight that really stood out to me, and I highlighted it. And he says, don't find happiness in your material, external things. Find it in your achievements. It was pretty simple. And then he elaborated, but he's basically just saying, like, continue pursuing like the things you were doing, like achieving things, and like putting a book out or getting some like that's where you can find your happiness, instead of doing it so that you can get a house or so that you can get a car, because he has found, and because he works with so many millionaires, that it makes no difference in your life. You can have money, of course, that's great, but again, he just says, I live in the same house that when I was making 5 figures as when I'm now making 7 figures, but I just continue to do the work that I love to do.
Yeah, I think there's enough scientific evidence as well. I was just reading this book called Social, and there's a small, not even a chapter near the end, that talks about how all of the studies show that what really makes people happy is obviously not money. We know this, but it's mainly our social world. So people that have friends with their neighbors, people that have enough close friends that they really can share things with, people that never feel lonely, people that have good intimate relationships are as happy as if they were earning whatever 10 times as much money. Health is something we take for granted. So being healthy doesn't really give that happiness bump. It only gives a negative if we're unhealthy.
Right.
But the things that can legitimately add a bump, and the other 2 things that were maybe a little bit interesting were giving to charity and volunteering. And they gave really big bumps as well to happiness. And none of it really depended on material income once you get above a certain point. So there's a certain level of income, and then after that it's kind of diminishing returns.
Right, exactly. When I was putting together I was telling you I was doing these online events, one of the things that I bring out is in America it was $95,000. $75,000 is the average, but if you live in like Los Angeles or New York, it was about $95,000, which is still pretty tight. But before you actually there was no correlation to happiness. Like you were better off just working on other aspects of your life, like you just said, like your social life, like your health, and you would see a significant higher return than continuing to chase a new dollar amount.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you ever just like you're talking to a girl and like you get rejected, and do you ever just walk away thinking like, man, like she doesn't know who I am? Or like, what's it like when you've got this massive, like maybe you just finished this video, you just did this launch, and like, you know what you're doing, and like it didn't work out. What does that feel like?
Yeah, there's something, I think anyone that has success will have it, where they've got this kind of ego about who they are and their abilities. And it's kind of annoying when people don't recognize that immediately. So I'm sure if you're very talented in some area and then you're pitching your services around and you're like, what's wrong with these people? Why can't they see it immediately that I know my stuff and they need to test me out and compare to these people? So there is an element of that with women, and personally, yeah, it's kind of annoying that I know who I am, but I need to spend all this time kind of proving that. But I understand that the average woman has been lied to and tricked, enough times, and she's going to be a little bit skeptical and tough because of that. So I know the reasons why, and I accept it, and I can kind of enjoy the process. But there are also some women that just make the wrong decisions consistently. Like some people that consistently destroy their business. Is promising, and they kind of sabotage their success. And I think there are women that always choose the wrong man, and then he ends up being evil to her, and then she's upset, and then she chooses one exactly the same. So
Right.
If you expect the woman you're talking to make an amazing decision every time, it's unrealistic. All you can do is make yourself, the best possible candidate for the kind of woman or women you want.
Yeah.
And then present that to them in the best way.
Right.
But there's no kind of one size fits all approach. And if you focus too much on the technique and the, kind of the 2005 Neil Strauss mystery method, type stuff, then you're focusing on, on lines and what to say, and you're not really thinking about what you're offering her in terms of, being a cool guy that she would really enjoy spending time with, not just someone who has like the first hour really well planned and has alpha male body language.
Yeah, I was at a event. It was somewhat of a dating event, and the guy rose his hand, and the guy, speaking was like, "Okay, go ahead. What's your question?" And the guy was like, "All right, so I'm in S2, she's in S3." I knew what he was talking about, but I was like, "Really? Like that? You're still doing that? That's crazy." Do you ever date a girl and she looks online and finds out what you do, and she's like, "Whoa, what the fuck?"
Yeah, of course, every single one.
Yeah, right. How do you handle that? What do you say? I'm curious to say, like, what is it like when if you're dating her more seriously and she's like, "Yeah, I'm dating this guy. He's the founder of PUAtraining.com."
Yeah, it happened with my current girlfriend.
Yeah.
So she saw it after, I think I told her maybe on the first date. And then, so we met one time, spent a few hours. Then I met her on the first date, and after that, she Googled me, and
Right.
She just told me that, of course, none of it all looks terrible, that she wanted to make her own mind up, based on spending time with me. So I managed to deal with it, and I think the weight of first-hand evidence when you spend hours with someone is worth more than the online stuff. The online stuff is not at all cool, and probably I wish I used some other name, like whatever, Barry Badgerson or something, but still it's only destroyed one potential relationship so far. So it's just a few embarrassing, not so nice moments, and having to persuade, that I'm not evil. And of course, when their parents see it, because they're going to be even more negative because they're from the older generation. But yeah, just deal with it. It's part of who I am.
Yeah, and do you find that some women actually like it? Like it actually turns them on?
Yeah, it can be intriguing. I think when I present what I do, it's interesting and intriguing. When they Google, then they meet me and they just assume everything I'm saying or doing is a psychological trick. And then it's just really annoying. So it doesn't really help me overall at all.
Yeah. Okay. Now, what I'm seeing a lot lately, and still to this day, is I'm seeing a lot of successful men who are legitimately doing well in their careers, having their own homes, having their own nice, penthouse, driving nice cars, but single, and in some cases, really, really sick and tired of being single. And what are your experiences with this when you're helping men in this situation where they're, because some men think the reason why they don't have women is because they don't have, they don't have the status, they don't have the social circle. But you can still find men who have those things, but are being friend zoned, are having to pay for, basically just paying for dates by taking girls out, stuff like that.
Yeah, I've got a friend of mine who's in Los Angeles right now, and she just sent me a message today of 3 dates that she had in 24 hours. And there was like one guy with a Rolls Royce, and one guy who's a TV star, and one guy who's, what was cool about him? He had some super house and some membership of some exclusive place, whatever. So these three guys, and
In one day, so this girl went on a date with three guys in one day.
in 24 hours. So one on one day and two on the other. And she didn't get physical with any of them. They were just kind of interesting to her.
Got it.
I think it was from Tinder or whatever. So, she was having fun with that. She's on holiday in LA and just meeting some guys. And it was, she's with the guy for 2 hours, and then he drives her in the Rolls-Royce Wraith, and he was a bit lame. The conversation was not great, and he was too into her, and it was kind of, it was just too much, wasn't comfortable. And then there was a guy who was just very funny and relaxed and whatever, and he was he was still successful as well, but he didn't have the Rolls Royce and all of the other stuff. And women can't really help their emotions, and although these material things do trigger some kind of emotion, a guy with the wrong behavior can turn those switches off, very easily. Whereas on the other hand, a guy without all the material stuff can just flick the switches without having the material stuff, and just by force of his personality. It could only be a problem maybe later when she's like, okay, I want to marry like a doctor, and my parents want me to, and this guy's unemployed. But to charm her in the early stages is really not an issue. And these guys basically have just said, I need to get the material things, and then I will have women.
Right.
And if they just dedicated 20% of the time that they spent amassing material wealth, not honing their skills with women, but just generally being more sociable, having female friends in their life so that they just got comfortable and relaxed around beautiful women. If they did interesting activities instead of just the same stuff, reading the same books in the same, on the same subjects, then they'd just be an interesting person, can have fascinating conversations, good dates. And it would, otherwise you're playing catch up, trying to buy more stuff to make up for your personality failings.
Yeah. Was she intrigued at all by this Rolls Royce?
Not really, no.
Yeah.
She said, well, yeah, it was cool, but what does it mean to me anyway? Like, it was okay,
Yeah, man. Okay, so it's about being that the right man, being that interesting, that sociable man that can connect with her, and something that intrigues her to where she's starting to ask you the questions. Like, she wants to get you, she wants to learn more about you because of all this interesting things that you've done, or the travels that you've been to, things that you've accomplished maybe personally in that way.
Because there are a lot of rich guys, right? In London, there's 100,000 millionaires, and I don't know the stats for LA and New York, but for big cities, having $1 million or whatever, it doesn't really do much. It doesn't add much of an edge over, for example, a barman who's just very, chatty and relaxed with beautiful women.
Wait, what was that versus
a barman?
A barman. Okay.
Yeah, who just he's comfortable around pretty women all the time, and he can chat to them, and then that's it. He's going to have a lot more opportunity than the rich guy. The only, I guess, the benefit, once you're already cool and kind of know what you're doing, add money on top, and then it can be really powerful. You can drive down the road in your Rolls Royce and have, a sexy female driver who kind of gets out, opens the door for you, and you go and talk to some girls. You know exactly what to say, and you take them for a drive. If you can add it at the end, then it's great. But as the only thing that a guy has to offer, it's not really enough in today's world where women are looking less for kind of security because they generally, have their own income. And
right. Yeah.
If they didn't, they've got their family who would look after them. It's not like 50 years ago when they'd be, in their early 20s and they need to get married off. And
so that they could survive.
Yeah. And if the guy is kind of working in a bank and has a good degree, then he's a solid prospect and, he's the one. They're not really looking for these kind of solid prospects anymore. So the flashy wealth can help, and in the right, if you're in a nightclub and you've got a table and you're spending 10 G's on bottles of Cristal, you will get more attention and more opportunities with certain types of women.
Right.
But overall, it really has a limited effect versus even if you just did 3 dumb classes a week, like doing a cooking class, a salsa class, and a yoga class. Just that would give you more opportunity to meet women, more things to talk about, and more varied social circle of interesting people from different groups that you've met in these places.
Yeah, you bring up an interesting point about how women are no longer, they can provide for themselves. Like their own standard of living is covered on their own. 50 years ago, the percentage of women graduating from college and getting equal pay in the workforce was not similar. And so we live in a period where, like, almost, I believe, in the first time in human history, like in all of history, where more women are going to college than men, well, at least here in the United States. And it's like 1.4 women to every man here in the United States. And they projected that in 2018, it would be closer to 1.8 females for every man. So,
amazing.
So it shows, and then with equal pay, it shows, basically equal pay. It basically, you have women who are graduating from college and who are making, their $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, and they've got a roof over their head, and they've got roommates with a bunch of other friends, so they just reduce their costs. So it creates this environment where men who were typically thinking, okay, I'm going to get that job and, I just need to go on a date and like this, like I'm good. Like I've got my own place. You don't have to be rich, but even if you just have your own things taken care of, like what you're bringing to the table and what you're saying is like, be a more interesting man. I like just go to yoga class, just go to salsa class, go to cooking classes, go to farmers markets, go to art galleries, like go do fun, interesting stuff with your life. And when you do that, you're going to meet all the women. And plus a girl that you meet at a club it could be the same girl, but if you meet that same girl at let's say a farmers market on a Sunday,
to talk to her.
On a Sunday at 11 a.m., she's in a different mood. Like she's not in heels. She's not in a skirt. There's no DJ. There's no table. There's no ropes. It's like you and her. And
she's probably hungover on Sunday at 11 a.m. But still, it's going to be easier than the night before for sure.
Yeah. I like this. So this is more of the natural.
Yes, it's pretty stupid to think that, you're going to go to the club and outspend and outshow off and outdress and arrive in a better car and all of this stuff to compete in that environment. Why bother? It's a fool's errand. You can go to Whole Foods and, you're much more easily complete with the other dudes in Whole Foods than you would in a nightclub trying to outspend them on bottles of champagne. But, something that I did in my life that is a very powerful social thing is that I started looking not just to meet women that I would date, but just meet people in general. So cool guys, attractive women and good people. And the next thing I did was I started to arrange all these activities. So I'd be kind of the social hub and I would book like painting class for 4 people. And then I'd see who wants to come with me. It costs me whatever, it's part of a group. So it's like $20 or something. It's nothing. And then I see who wants to come. Some people can, some people can't. We all go there and we've got this experience. Everyone likes it because, they wanted to try, but they never had the, I had a seminar recently. I said, who's got some things that they wanted to try, but they just haven't done it? And of course, everyone puts their hand up. And I think everyone can, has listening to this probably has some things like that. But I decided to be the person that kind of forced everyone to do the things that they wanted to do, but just hadn't done. So I started just finding stuff and booking it, invite people. And then I'm going to a spa and I'm bringing all the girls actually. And then I'm going to, climbing and I'm bringing the girls. And then I'm going to some place out of the city where they've got like knife throwing and horseback riding and all these fun things. And every time we do it, everyone has a blast, obviously, because it's better than, sitting in a cafe, sitting in a bar, all the usual rubbish that people do in their spare time, going to the cinema and stuff. It's just that, too predictable and too boring. So have these cool experiences. And I guess that's why in team building in companies, they usually choose that kind of stuff. But then after I had this network and I'm the social hub and I'm introducing all those activities, they start coming up with ideas and they start looking into things, and it gives them the incentive to be that kind of active person as well. And so I didn't even have to do much work after that. And they're saying, oh, why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? Or I read and there's this festival of this and there's this exhibition of that. And we just always have these interesting things. And then when I meet a woman, I'm not inviting her for a drink or for a coffee. I'm saying, do you want to come to this or this? Do you like this kind of? Yeah, I wanted to try, Latin dancing. Okay, I've got this cool teacher. A few of us are going. Come. Okay, yeah, I'd love to come. This same girl in LA that's on Tinder all the time, she told me that guys just say, what are you up to this weekend? Do you want to go for a drink? Do you want to go for a coffee? So I was able to stand out, and by making friends with beautiful girls and cool guys, of course, then there's no need to go to a crowded bar and buy bottles of champagne and pour them on the floor to show how rich I am, and then invite girls to the table and have them be like, yeah, I guess I can for a minute, like that. And please, it just became very, very easy to kind of create a machine and then just sit back while the girls just appear, because the girl is like, oh, can I bring my friend? She wants to come, pretty trainer in the gym. I say, oh, we're going climbing at the weekend. It's not a date, is it? Come to climbing. Okay, cool. Can I bring my friend? Oh, no, you're going to bring another pretty girl. Yeah, of course. She brings Sarah as well. And then, I'll be there with 5 girls, and then they're all thinking, which one does he like? And they start to compete, and you don't actually have to do anything. So from taking when you take the established route and do the things everyone else does, the only way is to outspend or to be louder, be bolder, and it's just really hard to get any attention. But when you do things a little bit counterintuitively like that, you just clean up with 1% of the money, 1% of the effort.
Yeah. You said you asked at a seminar, like, hey, who here has things they want to do? And everyone, of course, has things they want to do, but maybe they were thinking, hey, I can't do those things until I first take care of my dating life, but not thinking that by doing those things, you are taking care of your dating life.
Sure. Yeah, exactly.
Really good stuff. Yeah. I think that right there was a very powerful just session right there for a lot of guys. I want to dive into the knowledge round. Just going to ask you some rapid fire questions here. So Richard, ready for the knowledge round?
Yeah.
After 200 plus interviews, I've identified the most common trait of success as confidence. Whether you're trying to achieve financial freedom or improving your relationships, confidence is what separates those who get what they want in life and those who don't get what they want in life. So before a man sets out on his journey, it's important that he has the confidence in himself to accomplish his goals and his dreams. You have to have this area of your life taken care of in order to create the life that you want. That's why I've created a free program to double your confidence in less than 30 minutes with this weird but simple set of exercises. Go to kfmconfidence.com. Again, that's kfmconfidence.com to transform your life. Welcome to the Knowledge Round, where the guests will be asked rapid-fire questions to give the audience invaluable pieces of wisdom to help transform their lives. Starting in 3, 2, 1, showtime. All right. So what I like about what you've been doing is kind of you have a sense of purpose around what you're doing. And I believe a man who has a purpose is a man who is moving in life, a man who is attractive in life when he has his purpose. Like, what advice would you give to someone who is feeling lost and unsure of what their purpose is?
I think that you have to try a lot of things, right? So when I kind of got this habit very young. When I was 17, I started doing temporary work assignments in all different places. And I even worked one time in a primary school, and I was like, oh, I want to do this. And then I worked in an office. I was like, actually, I want to make money and work in an office and do marketing. But, you can't really find what you want to do unless you have exposure to a ton of different things. And then you can find something that you can be passionate about. I just met someone today, and they were asking advice about making money online. And it was like they just discovered the internet, and he just found out that you can have a blog and write about stuff and make money. And he was so passionate, and he said he's going to do it for fun because he loves writing, and if anything comes of it, great. But 2 weeks ago he didn't know it, and the only reason he did was because he was reading a book. So there aren't many bookstores left, but I actually like to go in a big bookstore and just go to different sections and just see if anything catches my eye. Reading, biographies, reading books in all different subjects, going to courses in different subjects, meeting all different kinds of people. This was rapid, right? Sorry.
No, that's good. That's good.
That's how, you can find the purpose that you can be passionate about.
Yeah, I like that. Try new things. And what would you say was holding you back from becoming the man you are now today?
The knowledge that it was possible, and just years of hard work. That was it.
All right. And what would you say are 3 of your most influential books, and why?
So I like biography of Rockefeller.
Okay.
Titan, he's the richest man of all time. He made it from nothing. It's cool, obviously. I like lots of business books. I actually like the kind of stupid ones, like Millionaire Fastlane.
Yeah. MJ DeMarco.
It's not like a big textbook. It's, but it's quite simple, but it just, it just works. And actually just something a little bit different. There was this book I liked, Endurance, and it's the story of the explorer Shackleton. And he had such a, he did some things that were, barely humanly possible. And if ever I'm in a tough situation, I like to remember these, these tough situations that other people have kind of pushed through. So it really makes any struggle that I have look like nothing. So I'm not saying they're my 3 favorite books, but 3 that come to mind that are definitely memorable and, and had some impact.
All right. I like that. And so this is a scenario here. So imagine you had 60 seconds with 20-year-old Richard. What would you tell him to do, and what would you tell him not to do?
I would probably tell him to go out to practice being, sociable, meeting people in general, and give him a little reading list. And I would tell him that you're going to have hard times, you're going to feel like it's not possible, you're going to feel like giving up, but it's going to work out, so do it.
I like that. Simple. And what would you say, Richard, is your philosophy on life and success?
My philosophy on success is, a lot of people don't understand. I know some people that want to have like $1 million or something like that. And it's like, what does that actually give you? So I think a lot of people need to reassess their goals, to think about what will give them true contentment and happiness. And it might not be the thing that you're currently focused on. To focus on the few big things that make a really big difference, not all the tiny, silly little tweaks, but, the few big things that make a big difference. That's kind of what I've done once I figured out, all the wrong ways to live, and the wrong ways to set goals, and the wrong things to focus on.
What were some of those wrong things to focus on?
Well, take a business example. Money comes in. Okay, what shall we spend it on? Let's try advertising on this website. Let's buy some camera equipment so we can make better videos. Like, what does that actually have to do with your end goal? Whether it's to, usually to make money yourself, right? Not to have a higher revenue or higher market share, but to have money yourself. So I was running the company at a loss or break even just because I was thinking I needed to spend all the money that came in the front door. And then I started thinking, wait, I want something personally to show for. So I started just setting aside money for me, before I decided what dumb things to try or to experiment with. And just that simple shift. I think all entrepreneurs are guilty of that mistake. They think of it either like command and conquer, where they want to get, just market share, and they focus on their shares and their likes and their followers and things that don't actually matter. The things that matter is like the revenue and the profit. And there are normally, a few big drivers. You might have one big affiliate or one really good ad source or whatever it is. And, designing a new banner for some area on your page that no one really looks at is the kind of rubbish that I would normally focus on. And then, now I wouldn't care if the website still said copyright 2013, whatever, this stuff wouldn't matter too much. I only care if the key things are really well looked after.
Yeah. You mentioned about, you would pay the company first and instead of paying yourself. There wasn't much left for you. I interviewed a guy named Mike Michalowicz. He has a book called Profit First, and his whole thing. Yeah. Oh, you've gone through that. Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately too late. I wish I read it. If anyone's just starting out, read that book, because it would have saved me. I don't know. I would have had a lot more money in the bank and had a lot less stress from unpaid bills.
Yeah. It's about paying yourself first. But yeah, there's an interview on that for the guys listening if you want to dive deeper into that. But that's going to conclude the knowledge round there, Richard. Thank you so much for that. Really good insights. What's exciting you now today? Like, what are you looking forward to in this year?
Getting married. It's not public information yet. I'm going to get married at the end of the year.
Congratulations. That's great. Congratulations.
I've got a new book that I'm working on that is pretty cool. I've written already 35,000 words, and the people like it. I haven't got a deal for it yet. It's not dating.
Okay, yeah. What is it? Just life or business or?
It's something along the lines of how to win friends and influence people.
Got it.
It's somewhere in that market, but I think that I've got a lot of insights that are very nicely tried and tested, but haven't appeared anywhere else. So
great.
That's the book world is so slow, so I don't know if that will be out this year, but that's something I'm excited about. And then I don't know, personally, just some cool stuff, renovation in the house, or whatever, just stuff like that. But I really enjoy just my day-to-day life, and I don't have any crazy huge goals. It's just carrying on to enjoy things, and then a few little projects like the new book that are just interesting things that could turn into something big.
I like that. That's great. And so for all the listeners, you can follow up with Richard, PUAtraining.com, and obviously his book, The Natural. Just go to Amazon, type in The Natural or Richard Ruina, and it pops right up. Anything else you'd like to plug for yourself on how the audience can follow up?
No, that's cool. The book just came out on Audible recently, so if you like audiobooks, I like to listen to audiobooks in the bath and when I'm walking somewhere and stuff.
No, that's great. Yeah.
You can get it on Audible as well.
Oh, that's great. All right, Richard, thank you so much for being on the show, sharing your story and lessons here with my community. I appreciate that.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Knowledge for Men podcast. Hundreds of interviews and 1 million downloads later, we're continuing to build an international movement, and we've just started. So if you enjoyed this episode, go ahead and leave a review in iTunes. It really helps to grow the podcast. Guys, 2015 is the official year of living with purpose, where every day you do only the things that matter to you. You wake up, live with purpose, and take massive action towards the life you want. Check out kfmfree.com to get free tools I've created to help you crush life. Again, that's kfmfree.com. This is your host, Andrew Farabee, and I'll see you in the next episode.